She can't love you guys. Not in the way that you do. I'd like to talk about the vulnerability and consequences of believing that she can. Some of you might remember or still read the Charlie Brown comic strips. One particular life lesson that Charles Schulz, the creator of the strip, imparts on us, whether it's conscious or not, was the fickleness and coldness of men's suffering around women. Where Lucy in the comic strip continually tells Charlie Brown to kick the ball she's holding for him, and despite her always, without fail, pulling it away at the last minute, but telling him she won't, Charlie Brown keeps giving in to his proven instincts of not trusting her and always gives in, believing she won't this time.
Trust me,
she keeps saying. And as always, Charlie Brown finally gets convinced that she's become a Nawalt for once, and what happens? Predictably, she ends up pulling the ball away again and he falls on his back, broken, and without remorse. She walks away usually with a funny line about how gullible Charlie Brown is. Learn this lesson well, guys. Learn from Charlie Brown. The cliche with many women is that they'll be quite open about saying,
I'm tired of liars. I've been hurt so much in the past. My kindness is always taken advantage of by men. I'm too nice and get walked all over. I'm tired of men who cheat on me. I want a man who gets me.
Etc. All these things a guy usually listens to quite seriously and is empathetic towards and even adores in a woman. And if we like her, we'll genuinely feel sympathy if we feel she's being honest about it. We'll think she's being open about what she's learnt about herself, what she's learnt from others, her limits, and generally we'll get a positive feeling because she's actually thought about some principles that now govern her rationally and for the better, we think. And the guy probably feels good about listening to a girl who's come through all that, can articulate it all, and knows better. And here's the slap in the face. Most women only care that you're understanding and empathetic to what she opens up to. In fact, if you open up similarly to her about what you've learnt from your experiences, women, relationships, and your fears, etc., you'll get the standard and dismissive and judgmental response of,
well, you obviously still have a lot of issues to work through. You're not over your ex yet, it seems, You need to work on yourself before you think about relationships and dating. I don't think you're ready with all the baggage you still have. I think you need to work on yourself.
She doesn't care about your fears and vulnerabilities. She doesn't care in the same way that you would about hers. She'll deflect your pain into meaning,
grow up.
You see, guys will comfort a fragile woman, whereas women are put off by fragile men, let alone men who open up about their vulnerabilities. Despite what a woman tells you guys about her wanting you to open up more or not hold back, don't feel compelled to do it because you think she'll love you for it. She won't. If you want to because you want to, fine, but don't do it because you think she's giving you permission and you think she'll like you more. The standard stories of countless men out there who, after they lose their jobs, became disabled, had moments of vulnerable clarity in their lives, or were crushed in some way by life, or had traumas. After all this, their so-called loving other half simply just fell out of love with them. Think about that. When you are at your most vulnerable and weakest, she leaves. Swallow that, guys. Stop thinking like a woman. Curb that instinctual, society-building, empathic, nurturing response to others when dating women. Stop thinking that you'd run to her even more if she was vulnerable. And by your logic, surely she'd do the same for you. No, she doesn't feel like you do. She doesn't have the light switch in her. She's not wired that way. As a guy, we largely have an instinct to run and assist the weak, to fix things. Women run away from weakness. Their biology seeks protection, strength, and safety, and it's repelled by weakness. Men's unconscious equation to women is weak plus vulnerability equals I come to the rescue and feel validated and affirmed in doing so. Women's unconscious equation is weak plus vulnerable men equals less manly, less attractive, frankly embarrassing, and pretty much a loser. Don't blame women. It's largely biology. Don't hate them for it. Understand they operate differently to guys. It's why the movie Titanic is one of the most romantic movies to women. Think about this, a movie where every single man's dead body is floating in an empty, cold sea at the end, as the women all survive due to the men's chivalry. And women's hearts tingle with love and warmth at that movie. Think about that. They feel love differently. It's why a woman's heart will soar as she sighs,
he died for her. Now that's true love.
Whereas a man doesn't get off on women dying at all. Least of all for him. It's unconscionable. It's the last thing he'd want. His woman to die for him. But apparently it's the first thing a romantic woman wants, for her man to lay down his life for her. I know it's a bitter pill to swallow, but just understand that even the best and closest women in your life don't love you like you love them. They can't. Know it. Need another example? Here's a historical one. Think about how, all throughout history, no matter how much a woman loved her man in a village, cared for his children and was proud of her tough, respected provider, warrior husband, if an invading army attacked, he'd go off proudly to sacrifice his life. For her, the kids, the village, he died for everyone and feel proud about it. And when he did die, the loving wife may have been upset but would not die for her so-called love of her life. Would she throw herself off a cliff, showing her love for him, doing the same as he did? No, she'd begrudgingly at best grieve a little and become the conqueror's wife. The very guy that killed her husband, she'd learn to love. There wouldn't be a second thought going through her mind about killing herself. She values her life. Women value their lives a lot. It's that whole Last Samurai bullshit, that movie with Tom Cruise where the noble samurai's wife sleeps with Tom Cruise, who killed her husband at the start of the movie. And it's all somehow sweet and tragic and weirdly acceptable in a romantic way. It's not. This women are loving but mysterious horseshit that they shroud women's irresponsibility in, it's just rubbish. Women just aren't responsible for anyone other than themselves, albeit sometimes for their kids. Even for the things that they say they want so much, like relationships, do not let them steer the ship of a relationship, guys. Just because society says they're the experts in love, most of them are experts in fuck all. They don't know why they ask for the things they ask for most times and are willfully ignorant of the consequences. Even when you warn them, they'll giggle at the mess they make afterwards, excuse their girly optimism in the face of warnings, and perhaps even blame you for it later anyway. So don't be vulnerable to women's demands and nagging. Be open to your conscious thoughts and decisions. Try and be aware of the snake charming taking place by women who largely know fuck all about the workings of life in the outside world. How could they? They've never needed to be responsible for any of that. And now we pretend they've always been experts at it, about how to run the world and how the important things of life are to work, especially about relationships, about men and women and constructing societies and forming relationships and families. Why have women suddenly demanded leadership now? Why, girls? Was your strength and leadership and acumen and intelligent and benevolent womanhood simply dormant for this long, just waiting for the right opportunity? Not when the world was barbaric, we heard nothing. Not when women died in record numbers from childbirth. Not when men and people in general died young. Not through pain and wars and starvation. Not when we needed penicillin. But now, when we have pink iPhones, you're tough and intelligent and you know how to run things. I understand why many MGTOW are angry, but you have to let this fucking shit go, guys. Just be very aware of when your dick is running the show and tell women to just shut the fuck up when they don't know what they're talking about. Listen to yourself. Don't be controlled and bullied by women. Don't go along with women's important life directions that include you, especially when you have to make them happen, directions you aren't ready for or you feel wrong about. Women only push with words and shame because they're biologically unable to push physically. And that's why they're great manipulators and why men are generally unskilled in that area. Men have never needed to answer to women because women were historically less pushy and abrasive because the world was so much more dangerous and they didn't want to push a protector away. But today, forget about it. Women have all the balls in the world when it's safe now, when they have pink-encrusted diamond iPhones. Now, just like my opening example about the comic strip Charlie Brown, where Lucy continues to lie and make a fool of Charlie Brown as he lays there in the end devastated after being sucked in again. Picture the countless divorced men who feel like Charlie Brown afterwards, after the first divorce, the second divorce, the third divorce. How many times are you going to let Lucy pull the ball away from you guys? You see, women won't be openly cruel like Lucy, nor will they know they'll betray the guy after pushing him to trust her. They're not that conscious. They'll rationalise afterwards their instincts with ephemeral womanly bullshit that absolves her of any responsibility for what she's initiated. It'll just be explained with,
I don't know why, but I just feel different now. I'm not in love.
Or,
I'm entitled to his money. He can earn that money back in no time. He has a good job.
Or,
he just fell on his back. I didn't do anything.
And the guy will be there on his back wondering what the hell happened. How she could be so willfully cold and take no responsibility for what, quite plainly, he knows she did. The guy says, this was what she wanted from me, and it was hard for me to do, something very personal and vulnerable, and I finally gave her what she wanted, and after that, she's put off by me? She's gotten rid of me? I don't get it. And you don't need to, guys. Trust your instincts and don't trust women's angelic reassurances that they love you more if you do or say X or Y. If a woman is pushing you, don't do anything just because she's pushed or demanded. Someone pushing you, by the way, should be a warning right there. Do it from your heart if you want, because you want to, when you want to. Do it for you only, always. Even if it's opening up and being vulnerable. Fuck worrying constantly about her all the time. It's about you too, you know. Courting and relationships aren't just about being blindfolded as she pokes and prods you in the right directions and calling that a relationship because they tell you guys are clueless. You're not. Trust your instincts. If you're not sure when she puts you on the spot, whether it's about commitment or anything that takes you by surprise, then trust your feelings and thoughts, or if you don't know what's going on, just say that. There's nothing wrong with I'm not ready yet, or let me think about it, or here's an important one for guys to learn to say. I know it was a big step for me when I simply learned to say, I don't know. And I was okay with that and expected others to be. Whenever we're questioned, especially by women, we're taught to sort of know the answers and be in control. Learn to just say, I don't know. I'll let you know. I'll think about it. I'll let you know later. You are not a yes machine. Not to women, not to the world. Start getting to know your own yeses in life and go your own way and find out. Later.